There's a way of breathing in freestyle that gives you an unfair advantage. And it comes down to one thing that almost every swimmer gets completely backwards. Because when most people struggle with their breathing, they think the problem is in the inhale. They're not getting enough air, so they try to take bigger breaths, hold more oxygen, and breathe more often. And it never works because the breath in was never the problem. The problem is the breath out. Most swimmers hold their air in their lungs the entire time their face is in the water and then try to do two things in the half second their mouth is in the air. Breathe out and breathe in. And that's impossible. So they panic, they lift their head, and their whole stroke falls apart. And the swimmers who make it look easy aren't taking any better breaths in. They've just learned to breathe out at the right time. And fix that one thing and freestyle breathing transforms. And I've coached over 1,000 swimmers, and it always comes down to 3 small adjustments. And let me show you what they are. But before I show you the 3 steps, just one quick thing. If you are a master swimmer or a triathlete who's serious about getting faster, I run a community called Swim Rehearsal. You get me, a coach who's worked with Olympic and national medalists for over 20 years, breaking down your stroke, answering your questions in live questions and answer sessions, and giving you programs for every stroke and event. Plus, you're surrounded by other swimmers who are chasing the same thing you are. There's a link in the description if you want in. Now, the 3 steps. When you understand why most swimmers breathe wrong, the fix becomes obvious. Most swimmers breathe reactively. They hold their breath underwater. They tense up and start focusing on getting air. So their body starts to panic. And when they can't hold it any longer, they turn their head and gasp. The breath is a reaction to desperation, not a planned part of the stroke. And here's what that desperation does to your swimming. Your head lifts instead of rotating. Your hips drop, your stroke shortens, and your heart rate spikes. And now you're fighting the water instead of moving through it. And all because of one panic breath. Think about how you breathe when you're sitting in a chair right now. You're not holding your breath and then gasping. You're exhaling and inhaling in a continuous automatic rhythm. Don't have to think about it. It just happens. And that's exactly what freestyle breathing should feel like. Not a desperate gasp every few strokes. A continuous automatic rhythm that's built into the stroke itself. And the swimmers who look effortless aren't holding their breath longer. They are definitely not fitter. They're not more relaxed by nature. They just breathe proactively. They exhale before they need to. They turn before they're desperate. And the breath becomes part of their stroke instead of an interruption on it. And it's 3 steps. That's all it takes to get there. And the first step is the most important one. And it's the one almost nobody does correctly. Start exhaling the moment your face goes back into the water after the breath. Not a big forceful blow. Not holding it until you turn again. A slow, steady trickle of air coming out of your nose or your mouth the entire time your face is in the water. And here's why this changes everything. When you hold your breath underwater, breathing starts to feel urgent. And by the time you turn to breathe, your body is already tense and focused on just getting the air. So you gasp and you rush. You probably lift your head and now you are trying to do 2 jobs simultaneously. Exhale and inhale. And your whole stroke falls apart. But when you exhale continuously, by the time you turn to breathe, your lungs are almost empty. All you have to do is open the mouth and let the air rush back in. So now it is just one job. The panic never arrives because you already exhaled between breaths, which encourages relaxation. So think about letting out a slow sigh. You don't hold your breath and suddenly force everything out. You just let the air leave. So slowly, continuously without tension. And that is the feeling you want underwater. Now, you might be thinking, but if I exhale the whole time, I'll run out of air before I turn to breathe, or I'll sink because the air in my lungs no longer supports me. You won't, because the exhale should be slow and steady and not forceful. You are releasing air gradually and not blowing it all out at once. So save a small puff for the last moment before you turn to clear any water from your mouth. And then you inhale. And the perfect exercise to rehearse this is a classic from Learn to Swim lessons that I call the standing breathing modeling. And this is how to perform it. Stand in shallow water. Put your face in it. Exhale slowly through your nose, so bubbles should trickle out steadily. Then turn your head to the side and inhale. And then face back in, exhale again. And practice that rhythm 20 times and then swim a length. You might be surprised by how effortless your breathing starts to feel. And when this step is right, the panic disappears. And the next two steps become possible. The second step is where most swimmers make their biggest mistake. When you need to breathe, you do not start by turning the head. You first rotate the body out of the way. The body creates room and then the head follows. And in fact, the head should rotate last in the chain of that rotation. And another way to think about it is this. You only turn the head when the same side pull is ending. Why? Because that is when your body is naturally the most rotated and there is already space for the head to turn. But if you try to breathe earlier, the head has to turn independently without the help of the body. And now the body has to compensate somehow. Usually swimmers lift the head and or bend the neck sideways. And that is where everything starts to fall apart. Because when you move the head up or sideways independently, the body, usually the leading arm, has to counterbalance it somehow. And now a chain reaction starts. So the leading arm swipes down and out to support the head, and the hips respond in the opposite direction. And then the legs have to spread apart to stop you from veering offline. And does that sound familiar? That one breath and your entire body position collapses. But when you rotate the body first, the head can rotate fully around the long axis. Your mouth clears the surface just enough to inhale. Then you rotate back with the head following the body. Your body position just never changes. Your leading arm can focus on its job and your body stays in line. Think about lying on your side in bed and turning your head to look at the ceiling. You do not lift your head off the pillow. You just rotate it. That is the same movement. Your head is on a swivel attached to your spine, not a crane that moves independently. Now, let's train this. And the best way to model this is with the arms down rotation kicking with the breath. So start kicking slowly in a prone position with your arms by your hips. Then take a breath using the same body rotation, head rotation sequence you would use in full freestyle. And at first, I want you to focus on one thing, creating space between the body rotation and the head movement. So start by exaggerating the separation. Rotate the body first and feel how the body rotation creates room for the head. Then let the head follow. You should almost feel a small delay between the body and the head. So the body moves, the space appears, and then the head turns. Once you can feel that sequence, start bringing the two closer together. You're blending them into one smooth movement. The body starts, but the head follows. And eventually, it becomes almost seamless. And here's the important part. If the rhythm is wrong, you will feel it immediately. Really, all you are trying to do is get a breath while staying balanced. And if you can do that, you are doing it correctly. Because the exercise itself gives you immediate feedback. And if the timing is wrong, you will not get a relaxed breath. But if you stay balanced and the breath feels effortless, you got it. One quick thing. If you want me to watch your breathing specifically and tell you which of these steps is breaking down. That's what I do inside my community. I've coached everyone from complete beginners to an Olympic bronze medalist. Link to join is in the description. And now, step 3. The third step is the one that separates good breathing from great breathing. The moment you've taken your inhale, return your head to neutral immediately. So no lingering. Don't finish the breath with your head still turned. Inhale and then send your head back down and forward as fast as possible. And here's why this matters. Every millisecond your head stays turned to the side, your body is slightly out of alignment. Your rotation is frozen. Your recovering arm can't swing forward properly, and the next stroke loses power before it even starts. And the fastest swimmers in the world have the shortest breath durations, not because they breathe less air, but because they turn the head back to line faster. The inhale is quick and sharp, and the return is immediate. And the stroke, thus, never loses its rhythm. Think about a pendulum. A pendulum that swings smoothly in both directions and while keeping its momentum. A pendulum that pauses at one end loses the momentum. And your breathing is the same. The breath is one direction of that swing. The return is the other. If you pause at the breath, the pendulum stops. And the best cue for this is to make sure that the head is already in line, eyes looking at the bottom before the recovery arm starts its descent towards the water. So if your head is still turned when your arm enters the water, you're way too late. And you might be thinking, but I need more time to get air. You don't. The issue isn't the amount of time, it's the exhale from step number 1. If you've exhaled fully before you turn your head, the inhale takes less than a half a second. So there's plenty of time. The lingering isn't about air, it's just a bad habit. And the best way to reinforce this is with the opposition drill, emphasizing the breathing. So start from your 0 position. That means slightly on your side with the leading arm extended in the front and the arm to be recovered resting firmly at the hip. From there, lift the recovery arm out of the water and turn the head for a breath simultaneously. And here comes the emphasis. Aim for a fast inhale and then immediately drive the head back into a line. It should almost feel like the energy of returning the head back to line helps to project the recovering arm forward into the water. So the breath happens and then everything reconnects back into a line. And after that, stop back into 0 position on the opposite side and then either repeat the breathing on that side, or if you exclusively breathe to one side, perform the other side without the breath. And here is where the magic really happens. The opposition drill allows you to stop between strokes for a few seconds or even 10 seconds, and you can evaluate what just happened. Did the head return quickly back into a line? Did it feel smooth and connected to the recovery? Or did the head linger out to the side? Then you just reinforce the cue you want before the next repetition. So here's my challenge for your next session. Start the day with some standing breathing modeling, maybe about 20 to 30 breaths, and then swim 8x25 freestyle with normal breathing, focusing only on step number 1. Exhale the entire time your face is in the water. Nothing else. Just the exhale. Then move on to step number 2. And you can start with maybe 4x25 of arms down rotation kicking with the breath. And you can use fins if you like, because the exercise is not about kicking. It's only about finding the correct rhythm between the body and the head rotation. Then you repeat the 8x25 freestyle, now paying attention exclusively to step number 2. Body starts the rotation and the head follows. After that, you guessed it, perform a few lengths, maybe 4x25, again of the opposition drill, only emphasizing the head driving back into that line after the inhale. Then repeat the 825s freestyle once more, making sure the head reconnects back into a line just before the recovering arm starts descending towards the surface. And here is what I think will happen. By the third round of 825s of freestyle, you will most likely feel something you have never felt before in freestyle. The breath stops being an interruption. It becomes part of the stroke. The stroke stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling like a rhythm. And that is the unfair advantage. Not a secret drill, not a magic technique, just 3 steps practiced in the right order until they become automatic. So those are the 3 steps, but here's what I see happen with almost every swimmer who fixes their breathing. Their mechanics improve and their stroke gets better, but they still feel exhausted after a few lengths. Not because the breathing is wrong anymore, but because their brain is still treating the water like a threat. And that's exactly what I cover in this video right here, where I go over the psychology of swimmers who never seem to get tired, and why the mental side of swimming matters just as much as technique. And I'll see you there.